Hello and welcome to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new. Hopefully you will too. I'm Zak.
I'm Buzz, and in the studio with us today, our special guest is Liam Redmond.
Hello there.
And he's come in to tell us all about 3D printing.
If you enjoy the Now We Know show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes.
So here we are. We are going to discover what's involved in the mysterious world of 3D printing. 3D printing, for me, was something that, well, only until recent years that I'd heard about. What about you, Zak?
At school I got just about the start. They introduced one 3D printer in the kind of DT and technology classes and things.
Oh, we were lucky if we had a glue gun.
I never got to use it.
Right, okay, so I think that's where we start, Liam. With 3D printing, it seems to have kind of not been there and then suddenly appeared from nowhere.
Yeah.
So where did it all start?
Well, 3D printing started, it goes back to about the 1980s.
Really?
No way.
Yeah, where somebody invented for prototyping.
What was this, mainly on sort of an
industrial scale? But it wasn't until later. I think it was 1986, around then, when they invented the STL file format.
Right.
And then in the 90s,
because the 90s now we're talking. That's really when people are starting to get more
that's
personal
when it
computers.
Started to take off.
Well, in the outside of the
industries.
Right.
And then I think it was around the 2000s when it became what they call open source.
Right, so the general public can
the general public would have details of how to 3D print, and then people would be able to design their own printers.
So maybe we should just sort of, like, for those people that are listening and for our own benefit, because we know nothing about 3D
We're here
printing,
to learn about them.
Technically, what is 3D printing? I suppose it tells you in the title, but it's you get an object that
you get an object. You can design it yourself. You can go online. There's websites you can buy. There's 3D printing design programs. Free one is Tinkercad that you can just go online, sign up, and it's free.
Okay. So I can kind of understand 3D printing perhaps for, as you've already mentioned, prototypes and things.
You've got to decide what you'll want a 3D printer for.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So to throw it into the public domain, what would the general public usually go, hey, that's exactly what I need. Yeah. I need a 3D printer.
You could be somebody that who wants to print cosplay, for instance.
Yes.
That's a big thing.
That's something that's really only come out again. In the past,
like Comic-Cons and things.
Yeah, Comic-Cons.
So you see a character that's literally just a cartoon. Or anime, and then you're saying I need to replicate bits of the costume.
Yeah, you can design
of fantasy armour and things like that.
Yeah, you can go and design the characters or the costumes, or
You're limited by kind of your imagination almost.
Yeah, this is it. You're limited by what you can learn. But there's a lot of files out there. Even NASA, you can get files from NASA to print.
Wow.
So
a spaceship? No.
Well, you can. You can print. There's lots. If you go on the website, you can. Right. I've downloaded a couple of little bits. Like they're little rockets.
Build your own international space station.
Rockets
in bits.
Yeah.
So you've got a 3D printer. It is basically that. It's a printer. So I imagine a printer like an Epson printer, and it's printing out my sheets of paper. Blah 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 blah. So
what does it look like?
And what?
There's different types of printers. There's obviously the resin printers, which you get the liquid form and it goes over UV light. But that's great for miniatures.
Okay.
Like if you're doing board games and you're printing miniatures and things like
so
that.
If you're doing like chess pieces.
For my general use, is like I print for cosplay and other larger items. Got an FDM printer, which is...
What does FTM mean?
It means...
Okay. Oh, no.
Yeah.
we all get used to acronyms or whatever.
I can't remember now. File... I'll have to
Okay, don't worry. I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. And there's two different types of FDM printers. There's the Core XYZ ones, which are enclosed, which has the printer bed going up and down.
Right.
Okay.
Or you've got what they call them bed slingers.
Bed slingers.
Yeah, because the bed is literally, you've got the bed and it goes back and forth.
Right.
And the nozzle goes up and down.
I think that's
on the
one they had at school.
Yeah. So that you're looking at like a lot of Creality ones, like the Ender 3s, things like that.
So
TiVo Tornadoes.
What kind of size are these? You know, I mean, if you imagine somebody who's listening to the podcast and they've got a desktop printer for doing their A4 sheets on, there's a printer.
Yeah.
So is it something that's like, as small and compact as that, or is it huge, or do they come in?
It depends. As I say, this is what you got to look. What you're going to be printing.
Right. So you got to think about what your end product is.
Yeah. What do you want to do? Do you want to produce a great big helmet, or do you want to print a sword, or do you want
to...
Okay, well, how on earth would you say fit a sword in a... Surely it'd have to be huge to get a sword, yeah.
This is where you get you can either get the belt printers now, which you can print infinity, literally, you could just print as long. Otherwise, it will...
You mean it actually feeds through on a belt?
It feeds at an angle, and then it just goes along, and it can, as long as you've got something to support it.
Out the other end of the machine. Yeah. Oh, right.
Or the other good thing with the belt printers is if you're doing a lot of items, you could set it up to print one item, then shove it off the bed into a box to print another item. So if you've got an order for something, you could just keep on continuously.
Okay.
Wow.
And they can go on walls and they go up and down.
So where did 3D printing originate from? Was it America?
It was a Chinese chap that invented the first 3D printers. Mm-hmm. But I mean, a lot of the 3D printers now are coming from China.
Okay.
But I'd say, and that's, that you can pick up printers for... You pick up printers for £200. You can pick up a second-hand printer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Would you say that these 3D printers are becoming more affordable?
They're becoming more affordable, but you've got to remember with 3D printing, there's always, you're going to have some sort of problem to fix. So if you're good at tinkering, that's fine.
Because I kind of imagine you've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine you've got a computer interface of some sort with the machine. So you've got to have some kind of knowledge of using a computer, but the machine itself has got parts that are moving, and they must need some maintenance and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like anything; it would need maintenance.
Has it got like a jet or something that pushes? I mean, I'm assuming
it comes.
So the resin that goes in, you mentioned liquid. Does it go in any other form? Do you put hard resin in?
Well, the resin printers are literally liquid, and then it hardens as it's printing, and then afterwards you put it in UV light to fully cure it.
Right.
So it's a lot more messy doing resin printing than it is like the filament printing.
Is that what you've got? I see you've brought something into the studio.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this
it's like a spool.
Like a spool.
So you get the spool.
Right, so we've got a
filament.
So listeners, we've got a spool here, and it actually, I've got to say, if you're familiar with strimming your garden, it looks like.
In fact, some people have used strimming to
seriously.
They've tried all sorts.
But surely it has to be a special kind of. Resin. I mean, is this like a hardened resin?
This is PLA, but there's loads of different. PET G, sorry, that one.
PET G.
Yeah, that's a PET G one. But you can get PLA, you can get PET G.
So they go in the machine, and what does that spool sit on its own?
Yeah, that spool will sit on the side of the printer or top of the printer, and that will feed.
So you put that little filament in.
Yep, into the extruder.
Okay.
And that extruder will have a little motor on it, which will feed it through. Normally, a lot of them have Bowden tubes. You can get direct drives as well, but normally it goes through the Bowden tube to...
I've got to ask, what's a Bowden tube?
It's literally just a little tube that connects, feeds through.
Right, so just
so it's literally helps to feed it. And that goes to the nozzle, and then it will feed it through the nozzle. Obviously, the nozzle will heat up to whatever temperature that particular filament needs. Like PLA would be, something between 200, 230, something like that.
What, degrees centigrade?
Yeah. So,
that's hot.
Yeah. And then obviously ABS will be hotter than that.
So does that type cure as it cools down?
And then what it would do, it will feed it out through the nozzle, and then that will lay it onto the bed. I brought one in to show you actually.
Oh right.
Yep.
Oh well, this would be fantastic.
Yep.
So what? Oh yeah, crikey! This is,
so that'll be your Bowden tube.
right. That's your. So this
So
tube,
yeah,
the filament
tube,
goes into
your
it.
filament would go through there,
Okay.
and then it would come down.
That's really quite futuristic. What we're looking at.
Well, I was going to say it looked like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
It looks like a miniaturized handle of a lightsaber.
And then this is your heat break.
Okay, so that's got cooling fins.
So
you'd
you'd have a fan directly on that heat break to keep it cool.
right. So it has to heat up, but at the same
Yeah.
time it mustn't overheat.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the bottom work with the nozzle,
Yep.
that's got to be hot.
Right. So that's where
That's
the
where
melting
that's
occurs.
that's the melting point down there.
Right. And
Um,
does that the piece you said needs to keep cool?
Yeah,
Does
so
that
you'd
stop the
have-
heat from travelling backwards?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you'd always have the fan on for the heat break,
Okay.
because if it doesn't,
It's all going to goop up, I take it.
and then it will
It just
well they call it heat creep.
heat
where-
creep. There you go. Well, I
A
think
heat creep, yes.
goop up.
Yeah.
Oh, I quite
Which
like
will
that. I like that
basically
one.
means that, as I say, your filament would expand in there
And
and
then-
give you a blocked nozzle.
Right.
And you don't want that.
You don't
No,
want a block
and you don't
nozzle,
want a block
ladies and
nozzle.
gentlemen.
We've all been there and done that with a blocked nozzle.
I don't want to have to go through the efforts of unblocking my nozzle.
No. And then obviously
Is that a job to unblock? Is it?
it can be on certain printers. It can be. And obviously there you've got your thermistor
Thermostat.
and
Is
your
that?
yeah,
Yep.
and then your heat block.
Now
there.
this one you've brought in to show us looks spankingly new.
Yes,
So-
this
so
is
do you-
this is just a
So
spare
do you
I've
carry
got.
spares, do you?
Yeah,
So in case
yeah.
you
Yeah.
get heat creep, you
Yeah.
can swap them
Yeah,
out.
and also the nozzles. These nozzles can come out,
Yeah, it looks like it's
and
three.
because you can change.
I noticed that looks brass.
Yeah.
The rest of it.
Normally the cheaper ones are brass, but if you're using things like glow in the dark filament,
You can get glow in the dark.
yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised nowadays.
that's what I've done my Ghostbusters logo out of the glow in the dark one.
Oh wow,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Oh, we are not too far. I mean, we're mid-August,
Yeah.
September, October. It's only a jump to Halloween.
Oh, there we go.
And then you can change your nozzle sizes as well. So you can get like
So if you've got a design of something that is already pre-designed,
yeah.
it will tell you what nozzle size to use. I
No,
presume.
you can use any size nozzle.
Oh, right, so
it just depends. And if you're doing a bigger item,
Yep.
you could change from the normal standard is normal 0.4, which
Millimeters.
yeah, 0.4, yeah,
Mil, right,
yeah.
okay.
And then, but normally on a bigger printer, I normally upgrade that to either 0.6 or 0.8.
Okay.
So here's a question: how long does it take to print something?
That is
Very variable.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's think of something that everybody can associate with.
Okay.
So how long would it take to print a chess piece?
a chess piece could be couple of hours for a small chess piece.
Right. So if you've got to do the whole.
But if you've
Set,
got to do
it's
the
fine.
whole set, probably on 0.4, probably you could probably do that in a couple of days, probably because you've
Wow.
got the,
Well, you just leave the printer running. Do you?
yeah. You could set if you've got a big enough printer, you could literally just get all the pieces and print it
All at once.
all at once.
Oh wow. So
Impressive.
that if this printer's running for that long, is it an expensive hobby?
It can be. It depends.
I mean, how much of the filaments that you're putting in there and things like that? A spool of filament.
A spool of filament, you can pick up a spool of filament, anything from £15 upwards.
Do you pay for better quality? Do you? Or is
Different, but some people love a particular brand.
right? Okay.
Okay.
Have you found brands that you've used and you've gone, you shy and using this one again?
There's
No names, no Patron. I just wondered.
no,
If,
there's occasionally where you'll get a filament that particularly doesn't print well on your printer,
okay.
but it might print
Perfect.
better on another printer.
So it's a bit trial and error.
That's why when you do the other samples that I've got, which they called a benchy,
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to- I'll
yeah,
reach
the little
down?
boats, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So Okay, we've got Liam's brought a box of
goodies,
treasure
right,
into
this little red boat.
Okay.
Is what they call a benchy.
Right. So let's describe. We'll stick photographs up for everybody to see. But this one is kind of like a little fishing boat.
Yeah.
A cartoon fishing boat.
Yeah.
Would you say?
And this was specifically designed to test the printer.
Like a mini trawler.
Yeah. Because it gives you lots of.
Well, you've got
curves, you've got
holes.
curves, you've got angles, you've got see how good it does for the bridging, details.
Oh, right, because you've got the chimney for
and that was just printed. That was had no supports.
Okay.
And that just gives the printer a test.
So how? Because in the middle of that, would you say like a cockpit almost? Like
where's the cabin?
How does it print above that without falling down?
Actually, it's even got a
so what it would do is
wheel in there.
Obviously on.
Can you see? It's got a wheel.
Yeah, I can see.
Where you've got the nozzle, you'll have one fan cooling the heat break, and then you'd have normally it would be about two other fans going directly on the nozzle. So as it prints out,
it also cools.
It cools.
So
you can set the printer on the settings. So like if you're doing the first couple of layers, you can have the fan turn off, and then you can bring it on.
Right. So you can
it can get a nice
adjust how long it
it could get a nice to stick to the bed. The first couple of layers, and then as you go up, you can adjust the fan.
Wow.
So and this is
that's really cool.
This is what you say as a test object, just to check.
Yeah, there's different test objects you can do, but that's a standard.
So if you had a blockage and you've tidied it up and you sorted your blockage out, then you'd knock one of these out just to see that it's working.
And normally I'd do something like that. I mean, I'll give these away to kids and all sorts.
So it's such a fun little thing.
Yeah.
I can see. If you look really closely, you can see kind of like little lines in it.
Yeah.
So are they the layers, how it layers
Yeah,
up?
that's it. It's like like layers of bread. It's like, and that was done on, I think that was 0.4 nozzle.
Just the ship's wheel has got me, because inside.
I mean, it is amazing how much detail you can get.
Yeah, so honestly, that's exactly how it would come out the printer. You haven't had to sand anything down.
No, that's literally just off the print bed.
But that is literally.
It's amazing.
You could buy that as a toy from a toy shop.
Yeah,
as is.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And would you have the? Would you have the facility, for example, of increasing the size of this?
Yeah, on the software, there was a little Olaf that I had the file of.
That's the snowman, isn't it?
Yeah,
we're
Frozen.
Yeah.
And I increased him to. I increased him to like a.
Yes, we got a film reference in.
And how long did that take?
That took a week or two to print because it was done in different bits.
Hip height.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you talked about the printer that had a rolling bed.
Yeah.
But if you haven't got a printer, how would you do big bits? You print them out in separate parts and then.
Yeah, you can get like if you've got a smaller printer, you can cut the files up into smaller pieces.
Right, and then how do you outside of the printer attach them?
Different ways. There's always different ways. You can literally just slice it and then glue it and line it up. But what you can do is you can print it with either little joiners.
Okay.
Or you can do it so you print on the inside. You can have little holes for put screws in or whatever to join it together, and then you glue it together, and then any gaps you've got you can fill in, and
Because I suppose you could paint these things up.
Yeah. This is the other thing. It's preparation afterwards. If you've got something like you're doing, like you're doing a helmet, and you haven't got facility to print the whole thing in one go, which isn't always the best way to do it.
Because I'm going to jump in here, because I did see you published some photographs of Judge Dredd helmet.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
To see a Judge Dredd helmet that's completely like 3D printed. So you did that in parts?
That was done in parts. I've got the file for the whole. I could do now. I've got the extra large printer. I could fit that on that and do that in one go.
Right.
Wow.
So how many printers have you got?
I've got 2 currently. I did have 4. I've sold the 2 smaller ones.
Right, was that simply because you're just not using them?
Because I use the other ones more, and I might get another couple when I get the 3D printing room set up.
So would another example of this kind of printing things in parts be a rather wonderful Titanosaurus that you printed for me.
Yes, that would be that one.
That was a sneaky one. That was.
Yes.
To let everybody know, Zak, if you don't already know, is a great
big Godzilla fan.
But the one thing we could not find was a Titanosaurus. And Liam, you came to the rescue, and you printed out this fantastic Titanosaurus, and so he was done in bits.
Yeah, he was done in bits. I mean, I could now print him. I could print him in life size almost with the marble.
Really?
I could print him up here.
Wow!
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. How much? How
waist
much?
height.
Oh, you could print it. You could go as big as you could go as big.
Don't tell Zak.
Right. Okay. We've got a box here. I don't know what's in the box. So do you want to pull
What's in the box?
Get something out then, and let's see if we can recognise what it is.
Do you recognise that one?
Right. Okay. What we're looking at is a black angular face mask.
I think I might have it. Any ideas, Buzz?
It's shouting at me orange costumes, but I can't think.
Orange costumes?
Was it orange or red?
It was a coloured costume.
It was a coloured costume.
It was pink costumes in it.
A pink costume. All right.
Does that ring any bells?
It was one of those kind of. Was it Korean program? Korean?
Was it? I think maybe. Yeah, I think it was.
South Korean. And some kind of game show. I can't think of the name of it.
Squid Game.
Squid Game. Squid Game's mask.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, wasn't this one of the ones the guards were wearing?
I think it was the main bad guy.
character.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the main character's one.
And this was printed in three pieces really. The eye pieces were printed separately, but the actual mask itself was just printed up like that, literally, with a bit of support on bottom.
So if you've got, you talked about having something being printed flat on the bed, but what if you have got a design of something where it is going to fall over? Yeah, because you must be thinking.
Well,
okay,
what you can do is there's different ways of doing it.
So you have to put some kind of support.
Yeah, you can put support on it, or you can turn it round. To different, you can move it on the bed. So if you've got the file, you can move it.
So
flat.
can you stop a job at any time and then adjust it and then start it again?
You could stop a print.
Right.
If you realise that there's a problem, you can stop the print and then redo it.
Okay.
So you'd have control. Like my iFast, I could literally, because it's Wi-Fi, I can connect it and stop it.
Or am I being stupid? If you've got an intricate design that needs some kind of support to stop it from falling over, does the actual 3D design include the supports, and then after it's printed you just take them off?
You can there's occasionally you get, if somebody has a standard file, they might have put supports in it already, but you can adjust all the supports in the program.
So where did you find all the knowledge to do what you do? It's
just literally, when I got my first, I got my first printer, I literally just dived in.
So what was that spark?
Yeah, what got you into it?
Well, early 2000s, I went to a show up in London, just a technology show.
Right.
And they had a printer going on the desk. When you see something that you can actually physically have a file and then see it produced in front of your eyes, it was just like
magic.
One day I want to get
want
that.
Yeah,
I want that. I want to be able to do that.
Boys and their toys.
Yeah.
That's it. Did your wife know that?
Yeah. This is the trouble. So literally, I was just looking online. Wasn't even looking for 3D printer, and I came across this English company called CEL, and this was 2015, and they had just produced a desktop 3D printer. And the good thing with that 3D printer was even though the filament spools were slightly more expensive, on the filament spools they'd have a little chip on them.
Okay. A lot of chip as in a chip.
Yeah,
you mean
like a microchip.
Right.
And what they'd done is they'd had their own software.
Yep.
And on each individual spool would have all the settings you need for that particular spool of filament.
Right, so you put the spool on, the machine automatically...
And they automatically would detect.
Read that, yeah.
So you could literally just get a file and print.
So would that kind of be like normal printers? Because they have like chips and things on those.
Oh,
that
they have on
are
the
like
inks.
very
There's
There's
specific.
not many.
So
I
you're
haven't
only
seen any other company.
so you're only limited to use that one thing.
An Epson printer will only use an Epson ink. Unless
But
you,
you
get
could use, I say you could use normal filament on it.
Yep.
But to get you started, that was literally, it was just plug and play.
So what do you remember? What the first thing was you printed? When you were there? Is this all set up in a custom workshop, or is it in your garage, or what?
The first one I had just in living room. It was literally a small desktop, and it was enclosed, and you could just sit it on the desk.
So
you could sit it on the, yeah.
So you had that kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to print something. Yeah. What was it you printed? Yeah.
It was actually a benchy, because I'd looked online at things what you could print, and it was the first thing was a benchy. Because what you normally find is a lot of the 3D printers you buy.
Yep.
Well, like my iFast has a USB stick, and on the USB stick, there'll be files that you can print straight away.
Okay.
So they'll have, like the Cura is the main one for other printers that they use for software, and you can just literally print it. That was the first thing I printed, and then I had a problem with the printer.
Oh, right, okay.
And
problem solving time.
And this is where the learning curve starts.
Right.
And it was a block nozzle.
Back to that block nozzle again.
Back to block nozzle. I contacted them, and they were fantastic. They went through everything that I needed to do, because that was also on those printers. Well, it also had automatic bed leveling,
right?
Because that's the other thing you've got to get right, a nice flat bed level to get your first layer.
Okay.
But they were fantastic, and I bought a few years later. I bought a second one, and any time of that, because I did get problems with them, I contacted them, and sometimes if they had to go in for them to look at, I used to drive there because they were in Portishead. I used to drive down to Portishead, and I got to know them really well down there. Because I
didn't offer you a job there.
No, but
please
yeah,
come and work for us.
It was really good because I got to meet the engineer who worked on them, and when they had all the filament, I could see it and all the new machines they had in there. And then from there, I went on to a TiVo Tornado, which was my first belt printer, what they call a bed slinger, because what you've got to realise with the bed slingers is you've got to have the room, because the bed goes backwards and forwards.
Right.
So just sitting them on a desk, you need to have the room at the back for it to go back. And that's when...
Does it move out of your living room then?
And then moved out into a workshop. So,
right. Okay.
And that's when more learning curves where you got to do your maintenance, and they were easier to maintain in a way because they weren't enclosed. The Robox was all enclosed, and it was more difficult to get to parts.
Right.
Where the Crealities and the TiVos, you could literally just
access.
And then it was a matter of solving a problem. Like the heat creep. If the fan wasn't quite in the right place, or
Awesome. So, should we go for another thing out of the box?
I think we should probably go for another thing out of the box.
Let's go for another thing out of the box.
Now it looks
right. This is.
It looks like a part of something.
Yeah. It looks almost like a
foot.
Well, I was going to say, is it some kind of landing craft?
Like a robot
like a shuttle.
foot. Looks like a robot foot.
I suppose, yeah. Oh, it's got a socket in the top. Yeah. Okay, so we've got this. We'll put a photograph up of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not ringing any bells.
If that's a foot, what on earth is it from?
That is the foot from a medical droid from Star Wars. I'm building.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah,
is this a full size one?
A full size one.
Wow.
Yeah. That I've had the files that I've.
Wow.
Yeah.
Full size.
Because
Star Wars medical droid.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's got like the grill for a mouth?
Yeah, the grill for a mouth. I've printed his head.
So is that the one from Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
So do you get to be able to also put in electronics in these things?
You can do. Yeah, this is the thing. You could like the eyes. I'm going to put some LEDs in. LED lights.
Wow.
And you could put a motor in for the arm and things.
For the size of that, that's pretty light.
And that was done. You can see more lines because that was done in a 0.8 nozzle. But because I'm going to sand it down and prep it, you'll never see the the lines anyway. So
Wow.
And this will end up looking like metal then.
Yeah.
I take it. Wow. We've got anything else in the box?
Ooh.
you may recognise one of those.
Okay. Okay.
Right now, we have what is basically a black dome
A black dome.
that fits in the palm of your hand. That can only be from one thing.
I think we have a good idea.
Yeah. Have you made many of these?
I've made quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering what it is, it's what would the official name be?
A hemisphere.
A hemisphere. A Dalek hemisphere.
Yes.
That goes around the base of the Dalek. Wow, you probably must have made quite a few of
Yes,
these.
I'm printing some as we speak, actually.
Back at your place.
Yeah,
is
right
one
now.
running-
I'm printing 2 on one printer and another 4 on the.
Is that for one of your Daleks?
Not for mine. That's for one of Johnny's actually.
Oh, right, for Johnny Who Entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be interesting. I wonder if we could get Johnny to come into the studio.
Yeah, and tell us all.
That'd be
Because listeners, if you do a Google search for Johnny Who Entertainments, he's a fan-based film director and producer, and he does basically Doctor Who and Blake 7 films, doesn't he?
Yeah,
and
just for fun.
And I saw a post yesterday on social media that he's actually up to 14 Daleks at the
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
He was wondering
Yes.
if he owns the most amount of Daleks in the UK. So if anybody's out there that's got more than 14 in their collection,
Well,
let us
I know that there is the world record for somebody having the most figure Daleks. I think
Figure
it's like
Daleks, yeah.
2,000 or something now.
Mind you, that means you can print. Surely you can print out things like Daleks, etc.
I have one to show.
Ah, so that's what was hiding in the corner of the.
There we go. This
Oh
is
wow,
Yes,
that's really cool.
So what you the Dalek?
The Dalek. Now, I think that is from Revelation of the Daleks.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yes,
Correct.
Yes.
So does it have moving parts on it at all?
The dome.
Kind of turns, yeah.
Yep. But you could print that. You could have that. That's the size it came file, but I could enlarge
Don't tell me you could make a full-size Dalek.
You could. Yeah, there is files for a full size Dalek. There is. You could make.
Oh,
So
wow.
you could literally have
so
that.
cool.
So that's why I suggested, Johnny, we're going to make a few model ones,
Yep.
so we can have them different sizes and then take them down to the quarry, have different
Right.
angles and.
Yeah, that would work well.
Yeah.
So when it comes to 3D printing, it seems to be so kind of open source, as you say. Does that run into copyright issues with anything? Say for example, you had somebody out there who wanted to sell items to make a profit.
Yeah,
could they be copying other?
Well, what you've got to be careful. If you buy a file, some state that it's just for your own personal use.
Right. Okay.
Like there's some that I sign up for that I print and it's just for my own use. But there's other ones you can sign up, or if you've designed it yourself,
Yep.
you could sell and print.
Because I'm kind of what's come to my mind, Zach, is you've spoken about knockoff NECA figures before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, you get things like the NECA figures and such like, and you get the knockoff ones.
The big one was Lego.
I can imagine. Yes.
Gosh, I wouldn't.
There was a lot of Lego figures going around a few years ago, and Lego.
The little characters.
Yeah, and you can
Or just Lego in its.
Lego as anything, they have the small figures and large figures, and there was big controversy over that, and a lot of them got pulled from the 3 sites that were available.
Okay.
Right.
Disney can be a bit hot.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I got some Lego figures from a car boot sale, and they were Lego figures with accessories and things that I had never seen available anywhere else. So
Do you think the person was?
I reckon.
And then if you want to go for things like guns,
Oh,
well, actually, that was down on our list of questions because
yes.
on the darker side of things, when it comes to 3D printing, we've heard about people printing out firearms. Is that an actual thing?
yes.
Right. So you
What they'll do is there's been a few cases where they'll print out the majority of the parts, 3D print it, and then they'll make the rest. So that you could 3D print the gun, put it in a suitcase, take it abroad, and then have the rest made out of metal bits, and it's a working gun.
That's crazy.
So it won't be.
I would have thought the most simplest form.
Or
would
you
be
could
a
say
just a single shot.
you could literally send the file across the world, and somebody could print. So it's like anything. It's fantastic, but it's got this. It could have a
So
dark.
do you know of anything? Because it's now shouting at me. Military applications. Do the military use 3D printing? Do you know for things?
I think they have used them, but it's more. NASA are the big ones that are 3D printing. Getting into real lot of 3D printing because they can use it to 3D print.
You briefly touched upon before we came into the studio about a possible new form of 3D printing.
Yeah, there's a new form of 3D printing. Literally, I've just seen the video last week. I can't remember the full name of it, but it's
Do you
fantastic.
want to describe that to us?
It's literally taking. Best way to describe it is on a normal 3D printer. You'll print something, and you might need supports on it. This new 3D printing, it will produce a 2D image into liquid.
Okay.
But it will send the 3D file over into the liquid, and it will spin and print the whole thing at once.
Wow.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to get my brain behind that.
Yeah.
That's quite
It's
concept.
like a replicator almost.
And they've proven that it's better in some parts to print it in zero gravity.
So the liquid becomes.
Oh crikey!
It's suspended within liquid.
It's suspended in the liquid, and it sends over a 2D image with a 3D file.
Right.
And then that spins around, and it will produce, instead of like on a normal 3D print, it'll print it layer by layer. This will do it in one go.
So you mentioned about being in zero gravity. Is that something they've got to test?
They've tested. They've taken a printer up to zero gravity, and now NASA have now taken it on board, and then I think later this year they're going to make it open source, so you could get the details and you can make a printer. So anybody that's got the money or the know-how, you'll be able to. So that's a new form of food, and it's amazing. It's literally just I've only just seen it. But
I mean, to be honest, from what you're saying, it's kind of a bit hard to visualize, but to actually see it happen, that'd be amazing.
There's a little video clip.
That's kind of you imagine like a science fiction movie.
I was saying replicator.
Yeah, where something goes in. When you get those. I'm just trying to think of a movie where you get like a body in a tank of gel, and then it slowly gets revealed, and it's been created.
3D printers now they printed human parts on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Such as.
Yeah, there has been where they printed like an ear and things like that.
What, using
3D? Yeah, they'll get you like a cell and then 3D.
Actually human cells?
Oh my
goodness!
So
wow.
They're
So
printing
you could.
actual...
So if you've got, so you have an accident, then you burn and you need a skin graft, they can actually be able to the skin.
They take a sample of your genetics, I take it, and then print out your own skin.
Yeah. Or the other medical option is where they could scan. If you say you needed a complex operation, they could scan. So you had a real bad broken leg, and they could scan in your leg, 3D print your broken leg, and they can see where they need to
fix it. Yeah. Well, I have had a shattered leg before. That's all bolted together with titanium at the moment. But,
and there's some vets use them to print.
I wonder if they could get to the point where they could actually
replace body parts.
Replace.
Yeah, technology is moving on so far.
So okay, right. Well, this is naturally leading us to another further on question. So, okay, we've discussed where 3D printings come from, and what you can do with a 3D printer, and what you've done with a 3D printer. Where do you see 3D printing going, since we've touched upon this NASA thing? I've heard of people printing out houses. Is that a thing?
Yep, there's somebody who got a concrete 3D printer, and they can print out houses within days.
Wow, that's crazy. That's really crazy.
There's obviously things like the chocolate printer.
Well, I suppose if you can print anything,
I'm not sure it is, but there's
chocolate printer. I think you've got the interest of all the ladies out there.
Chocolate printer.
Forget the printing bed. I'm just going to lie down with my head
onto the nozzle.
This is how I persuaded my wife and my children.
I see.
Because I mentioned that there was a chocolate printer coming out, and they all keep on at me saying, "When are we going to get a chocolate printer?"
Chocolate printer, then, Dad.
But But yeah, I mean, vets use them to, for wildlife. So like a bird's got a broken beak or something, they can
Replace a bit of the beak.
Replace the beak.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Or
So-
or if an animal's got broken leg and it needs wheels on it or something.
I can imagine it working really well with like prosthetic limbs and things.
Prosthetic limbs, supports. The other thing different material, materials you can print.
Now, you've mentioned NASA, and I am a great one for astronomy, and I love space flight and the
we know it? Don't we
the
know
whole
it?
potential of humans getting off it and colonising beyond the Earth. I have heard that they were thinking about, or maybe are thinking about, using 3D printers to print shelters on the moon, because they're putting a moon base on the moon. Have you heard?
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that.
So
they'll be able to print stuff up there, and then they'll be able to print stuff for down here as well.
Wow. So that, from your perspective of somebody who is so au fait with 3D printing, for somebody like me, it sounds fantastical, and I would go, oh, that would be amazing if they could do it. But from your perspective, you actually can see that is a possibility.
Well, I can see that, because the way 3D printers have come along in the past few years, things that that would cost tens of thousands of pounds, what you can print at home now is
You just, I suppose, the thing is, you just don't want a nozzle block on the moon, do you?
Well, that's when you.
What do you call it?
Well, the heat creep. And
Heat creep.
Yeah.
That's when you need one of these Tesla bots or something
Tesla
to
bots,
kind of
yes.
attend to
That's
it.
why you need a pit droid to unblock it.
Now that's led us to the other thing sitting in the corner there.
Oh yeah.
I think we all recognise that. Do you want to just pick that up?
Oh
there?
yeah. Okay.
It's just in the studio behind Zak.
Oh, actually, that's quite weighty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, and I think we all recognise that. That is a pit droid head.
Yes, it looks like a flying saucer
So
almost.
for those people who don't know a pit droid, do you want to tell them?
Pit droid from Star Wars.
Was that first seen in The Phantom Menace?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
these are the ones that is it Anakin goes into the workshop and he triggers one and it suddenly pops.
Oh no, it's Jar Jar.
Is that Jar Jar?
He
does
triggers
that?
one.
All right.
And they don't. Are they the ones that go?
and they can go up.
Good
Yeah.
impression. Yeah, there you go.
But
That is huge. And this is
That's a solid block.
like a replica of the actual pit droid. So
Yeah, this
that's
is one that
life
I've
size.
signed up because I've signed up with Droid Division, and they got loads of droids on there you can download. And this is
Droid
one.
Division.
Yeah,
Who's
where
that?
you,
Is this like a
that's a
Star
Facebook
Wars
group.
fan base,
And they design from Star Wars all the droids, and you can print them out. And
I suppose this is one of the things I was talking about copyright before, but I would imagine that to a certain degree, film companies must see this as this kind of fan. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, the fandom of building these things, opposed to being a negative to the franchise.
Yeah.
It more of a positive, because obviously,
I
everybody
mean,
loves
Star
it.
Wars being such a huge thing.
To be
I
able to
think
get
as long as
Star
they
Wars.
don't see you making huge profits. And
No,
things like
that's
that.
what I mean. If you're going to, do you take these to shows?
Yeah,
do you?
take them to show.
Have you actually got one already? That's already
I've got a fully built one at home. Yeah, this is the second
Oh.
one I'm on.
Nice.
Do you give them names?
I haven't actually. I'll have to be able a competition, name them, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
We could do. Name the pit droid.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone.
Right.
If you're interested in naming a pit droid, please comment any suggestions you have below.
Yeah, or send us an email to Zak Wylde Productions, and we'll pass them on to Liam and see
Yep,
if he likes any of
that's
these
it.
names for his pit droid. So, the future is kind of, I don't know, open-ended.
Open to
you
speculation.
3D printing can, you're saying, human body parts through to. Could you think that? I mean, we've touched upon in another podcast about robotics, the Tesla bots and Boston Dynamics and all those types of ones that are in production at the moment. And I remember that with the Tesla bots, Elon Musk was saying that the problem they had initially with them is that there were parts, servos and such like that they couldn't source from other companies. So his whole idea was to make sure that the whole production line and all the parts are all produced in-house.
Yeah.
So one assumes that he's probably using 3D printing.
Yeah.
to
Well, you
achieve
can print.
that.
You can print metal. You can.
Well, that was going to be my next
Wow.
question.
That's
Can
another
you
thi-
actually print metal?
Yeah, there is a post process to it, but yeah, NASA have been printing metal. They've been printing big bits.
So do you
Wow.
think?
I mean, in that sense, you could even print a knife for
Yeah,
instance.
you could
A
print.
usable knife, yes.
Yeah.
So do you think
Wow.
you could actually print? Okay, you're throwing
So
up
many
so
questions. So many
Yeah.
So
questions.
could you print something that already combines moving parts?
Yes, you can.
Ooh.
Okay,
So
so
there's
Liquid Terminator.
well, like you've got like I didn't bring one with me, but yeah, like there's a dragon you can print,
yeah,
and you just print it in one go, and the whole thing
articulates.
articulates.
Right.
Wow.
How on earth does it manage to do
just-
that without
it just
all
print-
fusing together?
Yeah, it's just
That's like
Yes.
that's like literally it's
How?
like magic.
How?
yeah, it literally prints as it prints a layer, and then
That
it prints
is-
the joints, and then sometimes you need to give it little bit manipulation, but 9 times out of 10, if you've
So really, if you are building an endoskeleton, that you could actually, and you can have a 3D printer that prints in metal in some kind of high-tech alloy. You could print out a whole
Yeah.
moving
A
part.
whole
in there.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes,
but
Terminator.
what you could do is print out the
Don't
parts-
let the 3D printers get carried away
Yeah.
with artificial superintelligence.
So what you
Yes.
could do is if you're doing something like prototyping, you could print out the part in plastic, make a mould of it, then make it in metal, or if you've got a capability, if you've got a metal, you could literally print it straight away in metal. But a lot of people print the parts to like prototyping and testing.
Well, I know that, like for example, we're involved, as you know, with filmmaking, and when you're in the props department, they would sculpture lots of things by hand.
Yeah.
And even making cars and things, they used to sculpture those in clay.
Yeah, well, you can do that on the computer.
So
There's-
these days, are you saying
you
that you could actually bypass that hand sculpture element,
You
design
could,
it on a computer instead,
Yeah.
and then it'll 3D print that sculpture out
Wow.
for you,
Yeah.
so you don't
Wow.
actually have to go through.
And then you could obviously replicate that.
Or could you do it the opposite?
and
Well,
over.
could you also hand sculpture something and then 3D scan it?
Yeah, you could scan. You could even on the latest phones, you could the LiDAR detectors you can scan in
What you on a
on
phone
an iPhone
in your
or web-
pocket?
in
Wow.
your pocket. Yeah,
You can scan an object.
yeah. There's apps you can do.
So go back to the simple object of a chess piece. If you went, well, that's a really funky chess piece that somebody's made carved out of wood. You're telling me you can get your iPhone out your pocket and scan
You
it.
could scan it in, and people go around like if they're on holiday and they'll scan an object and take it back. You could like
That's absolutely
What?
correct. And
you
this-
could literally you could see.
Yeah, the applications for such
and
technology is
what
amazing.
you could do is you could you could scan in your own head and print.
That sounds like something I would do.
Well, actually, that's yeah, because that threw me back now. Memory
because
of the Big Bang Theory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah, Howard Wolowitz.
There was an episode where Howard Wolowitz it wants to have action figures, so he ends up buying a 3D printer.
yeah.
Liam, the question is, have you created your own action figure?
Not yet. Yeah.
It's on the to-do list.
On the to-do list.
Right, I'm going to put it all. I'm going to mark with you.
Some of the bigger companies have done it as well. So you could
Okay,
get an action figure and
I
you
want,
could
I want the Buzz action
Hang on,
figure.
didn't that happen at, when we were at the MCM Comic Con earlier in the year?
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
they have a designated booth that you
Yeah,
could go in your
they had-
cosplay, get scanned, and then they would send you the 3D printed statue?
That's it. They were very expensive.
They were.
Like, you wanted £300-400 for a small figure.
Comic Con prices.
Comic-Con price. But they had, the little booth you were in. See, when we were on film sets and they're doing the crowd replication and such like, they usually
3D scanning, yeah.
They stick us in a 3D scanner, and that usually has up to 130, 200 cameras in there.
Yeah,
Take
it's
photographs.
amazing.
It's an amazing big bit of kit. I mean, the last one I was in, I was having my hands scanned. I was having to lie down on the floor with my legs in the air, having my feet scanned, and having my beard scanned.
Oh yeah, what was that for? Or can't you tell us?
Let's no, I can't really tell you that because
Okay.
the movie's not out. But yeah, but I think when that movie comes out, there's a particular character that I'm waiting to see if they bring out one of those bobbleheads. Because
Oh, pop vinyl.
pop vinyl, that's it. Because then I can go, ha ha!
That's you.
That came from
That
my
bit-
hands, my feet, and my beard.
Well, that's the thing. This is actually something that's actually quite up in the air at the moment with this 3D scanning of like background artists and things.
Yeah.
That you'll get paid for the one day's work, but then they have your digital image, and they can literally manipulate you,
And
like
replicate
you in any which way they want, make you do anything, and can essentially use you indefinitely.
Yeah.
If they have you on like a storage or on file,
They really need
they
to
can just
have...
use you forever, and you don't need to get paid, and you
What's
can't
the-
get
What's
paid.
the terminology we use in the forms? 'Cause
NDA.
Any NDA forms, there's a terminology.
Non-disclosure.
No,
agreement, yeah.
there's a terminology for ever and onwards.
Perpetuity.
Perpetuity, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so they
We can use your
image.
and contribution in perpetuity.
Yeah, which they really, that needs to be looked
Amended.
at. That needs
Yeah.
to be amended. Because technically they could do that with anybody.
Mm.
I think we've just touched upon that. We've got AI that can now produce images and video of people that are just totally realistic. We've got 3D printing, which
Well,
can
AI
produce-
has been used in 3D printing as
Well, I
well.
would imagine that's
Yeah.
the way it's going, isn't
Yeah,
it? I mean,
yeah.
you're going to have 3D printers that.
So you could do things like it will detect if there's a print failure or things like that. It will have a camera on there and it will AI.
Mind you, you're going to have it hooked up to like a computer where you can say, printing machine, print me the head of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then it just scans the whole internet, compiles the thing, and next minute you wake up in the
Boom.
morning and there's a head of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Why you want a head of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I do not know.
Terminator fans.
Terminator fans. But so you could probably ask it to do whatever you want.
Hey,
It's
then
gonna
you're
print it
moving into the zone of kind of like Star Trek.
out. Oh man, that means when you say to the
Replicators and
artificial
things.
superintelligence, please create me a Terminator.
Oh, Alexa,
You
print-
wake up in the morning
print
and
a
there's
Terminator.
this thing in the garage going, that's not what I meant. I didn't put a live one.
I didn't say sentient. I said statue.
Well, it's amazing the way technology is moving on so fast. It's
And you're looking to keep up with this, yeah? You're not finding it's pricing you out or anything like that?
you just got to
Just don't tell the wife. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Yeah. The thing with 3D printing is you can spend a lot, for a printer, or spend
Okay, so to round off, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's contemplating getting into 3D printing?
Right. First advice: what do you want to print? Why are you printing? If you want to print just one particular object, like a tray or something, it might be cheaper to either get somebody to print it or go and buy
Just
one.
buy
and
a tray.
Yeah.
Buy a
But
tray.
if you'll print it for your prototyping
Or like you
coswork
said, cosplay. Yeah.
or cosplay.
Something you've got to
to
buy
have
it.
any,
You've got to use it
I
again
got
and
into
again.
technology because I always like new technology, and it was something that I wanted to learn as a new skill as well.
Okay.
So first question, what do you want to print?
Godzilla figures.
Yeah.
Godzilla
yeah.
figures. There you go.
What sort of size Godzilla figures do you want? Do you
Oh
want to,
no.
Yeah.
Don't
do you
ask
want
me
to
that.
print if you want to print miniatures?
Life
Then-
size.
yeah.
All of them. All sizes.
Then obviously you're looking at sort of more resin printing,
Mhm.
but there's a lot more involved post processing for But if it's just normal cosplay, what are you going to be printing?
It'd probably be people that would be printing armour and things.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
like armours, helmets. To have a budget in mind of what you want to spend on a printer.
Would it be worth finding somebody that, like yourself?
Yeah.
Who,
If you've
who
got
has-
somebody who has already had experience
and
in
then
3D printing,
basically ask them for their advice
Yeah.
and work from there.
then
Do you find the 3D community is
because like if you might, I'm on different forums for different printers because my Quiddy they're great on the forums, but Quiddy, even though they're a Chinese company, it's been fantastic. Even though that was nearly a £2,000 printer, it's my most expensive printer. There has been problems.
So I paid £2,000 for 2 windows.
Yeah.
Not so long ago.
Yeah.
2 windows. I
So
think
two-
it
so
sounds like
two-
you
yeah.
get more for your
But-
money. You get the 3D.
You can print the
I should-
windows.
Yeah, print the windows. I
Yeah.
should have said that. I should have said to.
But I did
to
have
Mum.
problems. It has had problems, but they've been fantastic.
Good customer service,
I've emailed them, and they've emailed me back within 24 hours.
That's good.
There was, I think it was a filament sensor broke. They sent the part out from China, and it arrived within 2 weeks,
Wow.
free of charge. That was, you didn't have to have shipping or anything like that. They were
That's brilliant.
fantastic.
That's the kind of relationship
Yeah,
we want
that's
with China.
that's the other thing is what if you're going to buy a new printer, buy it from a reputable.
Are there UK? Oh, you've mentioned one UK-based printer company.
Yeah, robots. There's not many that are. I can't think of any other one. The big manufacturers are like Creality, Quiddy, which I've got, which is Chinese based, but most of them are now Chinese based.
Okay.
But
They've cornered the market.
yeah, well, because it's been open source, they've literally been able to replicate. So there might you're like a CR10, which is 300 by 300 printer, there's been lots of variation companies have done it in their own particular way. So the prices have come down, but with the prices are coming down with certain printers, there's always going to be a compromise.
Right.
So if you buy, you could pick up a brand new printer for like £200, but you might find, like a friend of mine who bought a 3D printer, he had the heat creep problem, and it turned out even though it's a brand new printer, the fan had just totally broke.
Right.
So
did he get it sorted?
we just bought a new fan in there because it wasn't worth that. It was a cheaper printer.
Okay.
So corners are cut for a cheaper printer.
Okay.
But
basically, ask around, get on forums.
Ask around, look on reviews.
Ask Liam.
Ask Liam. If you're thinking about getting a 3D printer, then contact Liam.
And if you have any questions, we would love to know.
Just put them down.
Because once you've got the printer, there's things like maintenance, there's PID tuning.
How expensive are they to run? Electricity-wise.
They're not too bad. I mean, they're not.
They don't suck a huge
They don't
amount of
suck
juice.
up. I haven't really noticed a big.
Oh, right, a drain on your power usage. Okay. I'm going to round off with a question. I don't know if you've got any other questions, Zach.
Well, we've covered quite a lot, actually.
I want to round off this podcast with asking, what's the weirdest thing you've been asked to print?
The weirdest thing.
Because you must do so many things, cosplay and sci-fi and things. It's probably going to say Titanosaurus.
The weirdest thing. I'm trying to think what I've...
Have you had any strange requests?
The only strange ones is that they've been bits of old cards and things like that.
Okay.
Bits of old computers and things like that,
Right.
like covers and things like that.
Right, just random bits.
Random little bits.
Okay.
So that brings up the question: what's been your favourite thing to print?
That's a good question. That's good. What's made you squeal and go, "Ooh, I've got to do that"?
Well, when I got my first pit droid done, that was one of the biggest things that I printed at a particular time. Because you print it in bits, and then you can see it all coming together when you've spent all the hours sanded down, spraying it up, filling it in, and because that's the other thing. There's a lot of preparation afterwards.
You'll have to send us a photo of the pit droid, and then we can stick that up.
But obviously the medical droid is going to be like.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
That's going to be.
Quite the crowd pleaser.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing is you printed loads of bits for Daleks as well.
Daleks.
And Daleks are a fair size.
Yeah. I print stuff for my Daleks. A lot for Johnny's Daleks. You could print. I mean, you could literally print a full dome on a printer if needed.
Wow, because they were always the thing. Because you've got to do the domes usually in fiberglass, and mustn't drop them.
How many Daleks have you got?
I've got 3 at the moment. And then I've got the pit droid, medical droid that I'm making.
I believe you have a TARDIS as well, don't you?
Yes, I have a TARDIS.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking real dedicated fandom here.
Yeah. That was one.
There you go. Maybe we'll have to get Liam back for a Superfans episode on Doctor Who.
We need somebody in for doing a Superfans episode, so maybe we'll bring you back. You can tell us about the
Of course, if you want to come back.
Yeah, of course. I'm more than happy. Yeah.
You might go, I want to get out of here. Let me go.
I'll 3D print one next time.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic having you in the studio, Liam.
Not a problem at all.
So pleased you could make it and come in, because we've had this on the cars for some time. And thank you for teaching us loads of stuff about 3D printing.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Really
had no idea about. And I'm sure there'll be more developments in the future. So
as long as it's been a help. I mean, if it's just been a help to anybody out there that's thinking of getting a 3D printer.
Hopefully you'll come back in.
Any questions,
And we can. Well, actually, if we get questions, we can compile them. And then maybe you can come back in and help out answer those questions.
There we are.
There
Brilliant.
we go.
Fantastic.
Podcast right in itself.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big heat creep goodbye from Zach.
That's a my nozzle isn't blocked goodbye from Buzz.
And it's a goodbye for me.
Goodbye.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts. Check out the Zak Wylde Productions social media pages on Instagram and Facebook, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. Please get in contact. We'd love to find out how you're listening to us. So get in touch in the comments, and don't forget to check out Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon to become an official ZWP patron today.